We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
What's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name's Matt Stryker. His name's Joe Pisapia, and this is the place for those that want to dominate, whether it be season-long fantasy. If you're still playing DFS, God bless you. I hope you're raking. And, of course, straight across the board wagering, this is the spot. I mentioned the name Joe Pisapia, Joey P. Come on in. You may recognize that name, the author of the Fantasy Black Book. It's changed the way most of us have just played fantasy sports, and for me, the way I bet on sports. I want to thank you for that. Joe, it's a festive time. It's a time of magic eggs and afikomen's and rebirths and celebrations for all that are celebrating. But for you, my friend, this is the time where we can make some money. Welcome in.
Yeah, it is. This is the time where we start to, I think, have a better idea of where value is landing for some players too. The slow starts get magnified by a great manner with this time of year because we've waited and waited for baseball to start. And then if things don't go exactly how we wanted them to go, we hyperventilate and freak out. And then all of a sudden some other things emerge that we never saw coming. And we wonder if they're for real. But once again, let me look at the date. Oh, wait, it's the 13th of April. That's it. We got a lot of these left to go, in the words of Lou Brown from Major League. So just relax, kid. You got a whole lot of baseball left to play. But certainly Vlad Guerrero Jr. has a lot of baseball left to play. He's going to do it in Canada. Toronto signs Vlad Guerrero Jr. 14 years, $500 million. Matt, so far off to an okay start. Obviously not the start I think the Blue Jays or Vlad wanted. Still without a home run. He's hitting 293. That's great. The OPS is down to 726. That's not great. How do you feel that Vlad Guerrero Jr. has now made more money in his career than his father already? How does that make you feel? Just out of curiosity, as a man in his 40s.
Yeah, right. Thanks. It speaks to the finances of the times. I think it speaks to the fiat of our currency. But overall, at some point, these contracts are going to get crazy. But let's talk about it from a wagering perspective. I hope he likes Rush and ice beer because Canada has a lot to offer outside of the taxes. But that team needs him to be the face. They need Bo Bichette to stay as well. This is a team that a lot of people have put money into, and it hasn't kicked back yet. This is one of those stocks kind of thing. Give them maybe 1 or 2 more years, and maybe with Vlad secured, they can give us a return. Joe?
Do you think that this makes it easier for them to sign Bo Bichette back, too, the fact that Vlad is now there? I think so, too. So a huge moment here for this organization that's been trying. They went after Ohtani. They went after Soto. They went after Sasaki. They went after everybody, and they came up empty. All they could get was Santander. and a Max Scherzer with only about 9 digits. So we'll see if that thumb ends up working out for Max Scherzer at some point this season. But good on the Blue Jays. Finally, I think it's good for baseball that he stays there as well. Also, the ice beer, the Molson Ice, delicious. And I mean the Molson Canadian specifically.
That's all of us. Good stuff.
See, you get the Molson Canadian you get in the States is not the same as the Molson Canadian in Canada. The OGs know this. Matt Stryker knows this. I know this. So if you haven't ever had the real true Molson Canadian in Canada, I recommend it highly. Let's get to some call-ups here. The Rockies, a defunct organization in their own right, they brought up one of their top prospects. It took a little bit longer for Zach Veen to get there, but Zach Veen got off to a hot start. Why he wasn't there breaking with the club in the first place, I don't really know. I can't tell you. We're trying to re-sign Mickey Moniak, who got released by the Angels instead. But regardless, we eventually got there, Zach Veen. So he is a player with power and speed. Now, I've seen Veen play in person a few times, and he is a very volatile player, both in personality and in skill set. He's got power. He's got speed. He has a lot of mouth, a lot of personality. Maybe that's a good thing for this Colorado Rocky team. Maybe they need a little influx of oomph into that clubhouse, but we'll see how it goes. He also has a lot of strikeouts, too. That is the downside here with Veen. So when you're trying to process Veen and what he can bring, I think a lot of it has to do with whatever we're looking at in terms of the format you play in. If you're in roto formats, you'll take the power and the speed. You might suffer some batting average at some points, but what you're looking for is the power-speed combination. In points leagues where strikeouts hurt you, Veen could still be a bit of a liability as he tries to adjust to the major leagues and the pitching that's there as opposed to double and triple A. So just out of curiosity, I don't know how much you've gotten to see Zach Veen here in the recent days. He was kind of a big call-up, a big deal earlier in the week. So any thoughts so far on first impressions from Zach Veen?
Yeah, so the thing to be careful with Zach Veen is you'll see a lot of these metrics attached to him that are like current and trendy and hot, like exit velocity. You'll hear that a lot, how the ball jumps off the bat. That's great. If it jumps into someone's glove, that's a big difference there. But I like what you said about the formats. And for me, I'm going to players on more competitive teams and lineups that offer more security. So at least I can sustain some of those things. If, like you're saying, I'm playing in a league that penalizes strikeouts, at least I have something to cover up for it. But in isolation, Veen is a good player. In his offensive ecosystem, as you write about, not so much.
All right, let's talk about an injury here. Blake Snell dealing with a shoulder injury. Our TD Jake made a trade for Blake Snell just hours before this injury last time we were all together. So that's a bummer, but also a bummer for the Dodgers. What was the adage we talked about last week? What can stop the Dodgers? And all I could think of was injuries and playoff format. And so far, injuries have kind of bit them a little bit. The Giants, the Padres, the Diamondbacks. It's a very competitive division, so the Dodgers kind of need to be careful here. I know they're sort of managing their way through the regular season because all that matters is championships at this point. However, at the same time, you got to get there, and this is a very competitive division. And when you're starting to look at rocky starts from Tyler Glass now, I know they're trying to get Clayton Kershaw back. I don't know what he's got left in the tank at this point. Roki Sasaki has not been great. I expressed my concerns going into the year that Sasaki was more of a project than people realized, and that looks like it is going to be true. But Blake Snell was the one guy that I thought they could rely on, and when you take him out of that rotation, it's put some pressure on Yamamoto, but he has responded, so that's the good news here. So your take right now in the current state of the Dodger rotation. I know it's only April, Matt, but do you think the Dodgers have enough here that's going to stay healthy to actually get them all the way to the finish line?
You know, my wife and I just started watching a show, I believe it's with John Hamm, called Your Friends and Neighbors. And it's essentially about how rich people have so many things that they actually forget what they have. There are people that have rolls of money in drawers and rich watches and stuff. These are the Dodgers. They have so insulated with their wealth that I don't think they lock their doors, if you will. So Blake Snell, fine, we'll turn to this particular guy, that particular. It's a long season, and you mentioned they have to get there. I think they will. Either way, I'd be shocked if the Dodgers do not make the playoffs. I mean, there's a wager right there. So I don't think they have to worry, and I think they understand, hey, look, if you're going to go on some of these stints on the IL, do it in April, do it in May. Please don't do it in September and October.
All right, one more bit of news here. Jackson Merrill landed on the IL with a hamstring strain. A lot of injuries to get to. They're going to really affect a lot of fantasy managers. So we're going to wait for a timetable of his return. This is not what you want. He got off to a really good start, and he also signed a contract extension. So good job by the Padres. They've got him and Tatis now locked up as that core for the next decade, basically. The Players Association, however, was not too happy about the contract he signed, $135 million. I think that's nice when you're a young kid, a guaranteed $100 million contract. I think you take that. I guess they wanted Jackson Merrill to kind of push the envelope a little bit more with that number, or maybe push into free agency. But it's really difficult, I think, when you're a 20-something-year-old kid, for somebody to put $100+ million contract in front of you and you turn it down. What do you think about Major League Baseball's Players Association giving him the business for taking this deal?
It tells you that perhaps that PA is not for you. I mean, we can get up on a soapbox here. It's a much bigger conversation. If you have a big group or anyone really telling you, hey, this is what's best for you, this is what you should do, hey, come here. How do these people know? Or do they really care for you? If they aren't your mother or your father, your grandmother, your grandfather, that's it. And folks, young athletes need that, especially in their lives. And some of them are so easily taken advantage of. Good for Jackson Merrill. Good for him for taking a stand. A lot of these young kids should do that. And the team should start to offer less and less in conjunction with this, and will slowly shrink the market, Joe.
What if your parents don't like you? I mean, that's the only thing I'd say to that. But, you know, that's all right. Things happen sometimes. But again, a lot of injuries to deal with. When we come back, we're going to dive a little deeper into some of those injuries, including a few rotations that are falling apart at the seams already. And we're just in mid-April. So don't go anywhere. We have some solutions to these IL stints, some players you can pick up to help you get through Major League Baseball season. We'll be right back with more FST.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread water, so I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength, need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the Tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the Tribes, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the Tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the Tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the mood between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate. And really quickly, before I forget, at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. If you're new to the show, perhaps your laps, just do yourself a favor. Double check that you're following along. A lot of things we talk about here can get lost in a lot of the funny, the conversation, the asides, if you will. But a lot of it lives there, nicely organized at SportsGrid TV. All right, Joe, people already bemoaning the IL. Oh, no, everyone's hurt. What do I do? Baseball's a long season. My advice, go get Chris Bassett. All right, let's have the conversation. We can talk. Justin Steele hits the 15-day IL, elbow tendonitis. What do you know? What do we do?
Yeah, this is something that's problematic because it was something that bothered him last year. Now, the good news is the structural damage doesn't seem to be an issue. He's going for a second opinion. My guess is we're going to be looking at a rest and rehab situation. So it could flare up again, which is not great because Steele looked like he was finally turning things around after a rocky start to the season. Steele, one of the most important components here for this Cubs rotation. And if you're going to lose him for a period of time, this is not an organization that has an abundance of young arms that can come in. This is not a situation where you're going, oh, great, it's okay, don't worry about it. We're not like the Twins. We're going to bring up a bunch of guys and not miss a beat. This is a problem here for Justin Steele. Pardon me, little spring allergies there. Justin
Salute.
Steele,
Yeah,
however, yes, salute, that's right. It's good luck. But on top of which now, you're basically looking at a Cubs team if he misses a real long extended period of time. Where would he be at with the Chicago Cubs in terms of the standings? That is the big problem because although the offense has been pretty good, Kyle Tucker's been terrific. Now you have to look at, after Imanaga, what else do you have? Not a whole lot you can rely on. Tyon, Ray, names like that. Nobody really blows the doors off you. Ben Brown, Matthew Boyd. So this is a problem, and at the same time, an opportunity for the Milwaukee Brewers, who have had some rotation problems of their own to start the year in terms of health. But they're getting back Brandon Woodruff. They're getting back Tobias Myers. So all of a sudden, they're getting healthier. The Cubs getting worse. That's something to watch in terms of your investments in that division. If you were somebody that was all in on the Cubs winning this division, Justin Steele is probably one of the 3 injuries you could ill afford to have.
Yo, spot on analysis, nailed with the sneeze. I'm telling you, at the beginning of the season, everyone was all up on the Cubs. You and I were talking about the Brewers. No, but it says something. It really does. The universe speaks. Sometimes when you speak truth, the universe lets it know. I remember if it rains on your wedding day, and it's not just from a song, these kind of things mean something. I believe that. My grandmother's looking down and smiling. But the point is this, if you had a lot going on the Cubs, like Joe says, you and I, Joe, we were on the Brewers. We mentioned how their pitching's coming. And when teams like the Cardinals aren't playing terribly, it kind of resets the market a little bit. So now if the Cardinals can keep their head above water, that moves things. The Reds can score a ton of runs. Sometimes that moves things, right? We're starting to understand what the Pirates can be. Now we have some clarity. And if we, meaning us watching and listening to this show, can have clarity before everyone else, we can jump in there and grab that sliver. And if that sliver even just moves 1, 2, 2.5 dimes, I'll take that.
Well, let's also see what we can do about the next injury. Pablo Lopez, 15-day IL with a hamstring issue. So the good news here, it's not an arm issue. The bad news is it's still an issue that's going to mean he's going to miss weeks. Who knows? Could even be a month. You never know. There's no timetable quite yet for Pablo Lopez's return. But better be safe than sorry, especially in April. So I know what the Twins are doing here, and this is the right call to put him on the IL, not try to push things too much and give him some time. Now, the good news for the Twins, you've got a couple guys that can fill that role. David Festa was terrible in the spring, but last year, after first 2 starts that were awful as well, he was a very good pitcher for the Twins. He got major league experience. He got the first call, the first look. There's also a player we're going to talk about in Prospect Watch, Zebby Matthews, that I think also in deeper leagues is worth a stash, because it's not just Pablo Lopez who's going to be missing here. Eventually, you're going to have to boot Simeon Woods Richardson, I think, out of this rotation. He's got an ERA well over 5. To me, if you're the Twins, you got to get serious here. The Guardians gotten off to kind of a mid-start here. They've got some bullpen issues going on. Who'd have thought that would be the case? But you're the Twins. You need to go out there and throw quality starts. And if you have the pitching to do that, use it. Use the kids, Festa, Zebby Matthews. So again, this is not the worst case scenario if you have Pablo Lopez, but in the meantime, it certainly does hurt your ability to compete on a weekly basis till he comes back, because he's one of the more durable pitchers that we've had in fantasy baseball the last 3 years.
All right, so it's conceivable that a fantasy manager out there could have rostered both Steele and Lopez respectively, right? So now you're out there, what are you doing? I made the joke ahead of the Steele analysis, right? That's the singular, about Chris Bassett. Chris Bassett was a nice one to maybe look at. Now we're looking at the Pablo Lopez, and you're saying, well, I still got another hole to fill. And our producer kind of jumped in our ear and mentioned, Tanner Houck. And I just looked it up, and he just notched a good quality start. That's maybe a name we can look at. Joe, to the point we're trying to say, though, is a lot of these are names that people drafted. They have draft equity. They're a bit of more household names than some of the lesser known guys that we can talk about later. So people are going to want to replace them with the like. If someone, like in the next thing here, I'll move it on. We're going to talk about Spencer Arrighetti now. If someone doesn't know who Ronel Blanco is, if I suggest if he's out there, he could be a good replacement. You're going to be a bit apprehensive if you're used to, well, I know Justin Steele, I know Pablo Lopez. I really don't understand. you understand there's two different types of fantasy players.
Yeah, I think with Spencer Arrighetti, another good news, bad news scenario. The bad news is he's going to miss 6 weeks. The good news is it was a clean break, so they expect him back in those 6 weeks. He had a broken thumb, no issue of his own, just a freak accident during batting practice where he got hit with something. So that's not great. Hayden Wisniewski, a guy that we talked about actually last week on the show, as one of the potential 2-star pitchers. He's going to be in this rotation now for a little longer, for better or worse. That's also a name you could look to pick up off your waiver wire. Some other guys that are floating around there too. Casey Mize was a guy we told you to pick up last week. Hopefully you listened, because he was pretty good against those New York Yankees. Tyler Mahle might be out there too. He's got some strikeout upside. Tyler McGill of the New York Mets, also some strikeout upside too. So those are the names you're probably looking at. And one more here, Zach Eflin, who is now going to go on the IL and miss probably significant time with a lat strain. This is devastating to this rotation that was already super thin. Dean Kremer, Charlie Morton, a hurt Grayson Rodriguez, Sagano. This rotation was awful going into the season, in my opinion. That's why I was fading the Orioles. That's why I was betting on them not to make the playoffs. You can't go into a year with Zach Eflin in the American League East as your ace and somehow think that you're going to be a playoff team. It's absurd. And what they were thinking and not using some of these prospects where they don't have enough room at the inn for them anyway, the Kobe Mayos of the world, there's nowhere for them to play, Heston Kjerstad. They could have brought in more pitching help. They could have gone out and got a Garrett Crochet. Instead, he goes to the Red Sox. And now, where are you, Baltimore? We'll be back with more FST after this.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that river. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the Tribes, I believe that California can too.
Would bring a lot of money to the Tribes, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the Tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the Tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the move between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here. The phone lines are lighting up, and by that I mean everyone on social media commenting about the previous segment, and that's what it's about. I mean, it's an early grind with, if you're just joining us, with fantasy baseball or baseball wagering in general, is when you have this slew of injuries, how do you replace those injuries? You can just keep your money in your pocket. When you're playing season-long fantasy, that's kind of hard to do. You have to replace these players for the points and for the stats that they give you. But now let's talk a bit more on the wagering side here. Let's move to the FST Market Watch. And Joe Pisapia, you've been incredibly successful over the years with these market watches, catching these numbers, finding plus money, and then by the time everyone has forgotten, look who's laughing. You're almost like Newman from Seinfeld. You always show up with a sly grin on your face. Like, hello, Pisa Pia. So let's talk National League Cy Young. Let's walk us through it. Walk us through it, buddy. What do you got?
Hello, Matthew. Yes, Spencer Schwellenbach is what I want to talk about because that's already a guy who's moved up considerably, all the way up to 7-1 now in most markets. So where was he? About in the 15 to 1800 range not that long ago. He's gotten off to a brilliant start. First 20 innings, he's got 1 win and 3 starts. He's given up only 10 hits. He has 19 strikeouts, just 3 walks. His ERA is 0.45. His WHIP is 0.65. You can't pitch much better than Spencer Schwellenbach has pitched. Here's where things get interesting. Spencer Strider had a rehab start this week where he went 5 1/3 innings and struck out 13 guys. There's rumors that he could be back with the club as early as Wednesday of next week. So that's still obviously waiting on confirmation of that. But all of a sudden, Spencer Strider, if you look at where he is at plus 2,200. Is there a world where we see Spencer Strider by the time we get to, I don't know, July, August, become a guy that is 2 or 3 to 1? I think there is. I think there's money to be made. I guess the question is, who is the Spencer that you want more in this race on the Atlanta Braves? Is it Schwellenbach or is it Strider? Because once those guys are all going in the rotation along with Chris Sale, if he can kind of get back on track a little bit after some up and down starts to the season for him, this Braves rotation is going to be in it. I keep telling everybody you want to buy back into the Atlanta Braves sooner than later, but buying in at Spencer Strider where he is, even if he is only a 5-inning pitcher for the next couple weeks, it doesn't matter because he can still strike out 9 and 10 guys in 5 innings. He's just proven that time and time again. And people forget you missed starts in April by the time we get to August. Nobody cares. All that matters is what are the stats currently. So curious to hear your take on Schwellenbach at 7-1. I'm definitely intrigued, but Spencer Strider at plus 22 to 1 is even more intriguing to me because on sites like FanDuel that lets you cash out at some point with higher earnings, you might be able to make a little bit of cash on there because I don't see a universe where that 2,200 doesn't become 3 to 1 at some point in the season.
So great job in your setup about the cash out option. I don't know if a lot of people understand or utilize it, but you've talked about it so much that they should. So those odds are great right now. If he becomes a bit more public and starts to take form and a bit more people start to understand what he's doing, that number's going to shrink. But you have it at that 2,200. You can cash out depending on how low it goes. And Joe, I think it's a great strategy. But being a part of the Braves staff, being a part of that ecosystem and looking for the Cy Young there, that's smart because there's really only a few pools to which you can choose. I mean, the Dodgers may have a nice pool as well. But yeah, I'm with you on this. I'm with you on the Strider play.
Matt has a nice pool, by the way. He's got the heater. He's got the whole. Very nice. It's very nice. All right, let's talk. Yeah, he never invites us over, though. Never. Not for one barbecue.
That's not
Let's
true.
talk about Mike Trout. Right now, Mike Trout is at plus 195 for comeback player of the year, and he continues to be red hot. Couple questions here. First one is, do we feel comfortable betting this at 2 to 1? I think I'm comfortable with it. If you look at the stats, 6 homers, 14 ribbies. He's still hitting only 212, and the batting average lagged last year too. Here's the bigger question from a fantasy standpoint. Matt, is this the time to sell Mike Trout?
Dude, all right. So here's what I'm going through here. I'm afraid to even speak about Mike Trout. Like, you ever seen the movie Brighton Memoirs? I'm old enough to remember. It's a story about a young boy, but they had superstitions in his ethnic family. You couldn't say the disease. You'd have to whisper diphtheria. You have to whisper Mike Trout. Listen, if any you can get in and get something out of this, by all means do so, because when the, dare I say, inevitable happens and I don't want to say it, you can be like, yeah, I told you so. But this is fun. I enjoy watching it. That's all.
It's getting eerily familiar because last April, if you recall, he had a power run and we were saying, oh my God, Mike Trout's back. Mike Trout's back, everybody. And then what happened, everyone?
It's a book about
all I know
that.
is, yeah, well, there's no secret here. It's if you have Mike Trout, this is definitely a period where you have to ask yourself, maybe this is the time where I put him out on the block and I see at least what's available. And if you can get something back that's more reliable, younger than Mike Trout, I think you strongly consider cashing in those chips. We return a look at the farms of guys that might be helping out sooner than later for your fantasy teams.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the tribe, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the mood between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia. This is the show where everyone is setting their lineups with their heads down as the producer is counting them in because we care. It's time to look now at the prospect watch. And honestly, Joe, you and I were talking about this, and our producers, tip of the cap, Sam Y, the sports guy, TD Jake behind the glass, they make the show go. We were all talking about the fact that, baseball is really becoming a young man's game. It isn't so much knowing the players that are at the top of the game. It's really knowing these young players, the underneath. And as a kid, I used to sit with the newspaper open and just absorb the stats and know all the names. This is the same thing. Let's talk about some prospects. I want to talk about the Athletics, a fun team. We've been touting them the entire season leading up to the season. They have Jacob Wilson's enjoying a great hitting streak. They have a wonderful plethora of betting options, but they got a kid coming up, and there was a sign. Someone moved, took some reps in the outfield. That allows someone to move to DH, which opens up a certain position for a certain young man. Let's talk about the Athletics.
Yes, that young man, and he might be a man-child, is Nick Kurtz. And this graphic is wrong already because you know why? He hit another home run yesterday. He's up to 7 now. Holy crap. Approaching 20 RBI, the batting average, almost 400 for Nick Kurtz. Look, you want to talk about a young player who's forcing the hand of an organization, it's Nick Kurtz. And he just got drafted recently. This is not like, he's been a couple years in the minor leagues. No. Nick Kurtz is that dude. And the position maneuverability that you're hearing Matt talk about is Brent Rooker playing a little bit more in the outfield this weekend. That means Soderstrom, who can catch a little bit, DH a little bit, play some first base. He was even taking some ground balls at third base, apparently. Soderstrom has hit, and he's been brilliant. And I like Soderstrom as a player. I thought he was a good buy this year. He was kind of one of my sleepers, but I didn't think he would be this good to start the season. Nick Kurtz, on the other hand, I did. And you have to clear a path for Nick Kurtz at this point. So if he is still available in your league, and I'm looking right now, in most leagues, he is about 70% available. You need to pick this kid up. And most of that 30% is probably just dynasty leagues anyway. So if you're in redraft leagues, please pick up this kid. I know we've been talking about him every single week. There's a couple guys on this list we keep talking about every week because we don't see that roster percentage move up, and we're trying to sound the alarm that the kids are on the way. And Nick Kurtz is a monster. The power's off the charts. He's a really good defender at first base, better than Soderstrom too. So he's not the DH. He is the first baseman. So let's clear a path for Nick Kurtz and clear a path on your roster as well.
I like it. Well done. Let's move on here to another player perhaps that we can add ahead of time. You and I, we butt heads. We don't do it a lot, but what we did here on the Royals, man, you're all about Bobby Witt, all about the Royals. I said, where's the protection? Who's going to hit behind him? And you said, aha, just wait, because here he comes. And it's Jack Carrion. Let's talk.
Now, he's only in Double-A for now, but going into Friday, hitting 340, he's got a couple homers. He hit a ball, it was an exit velo record, I think, at Double-A, 120 miles an hour over the weekend. Yikes. The OPS is over 1,000. I'm going to go out on a limb here. You see, he's got 26 at-bats coming into the weekend. When he gets to 50 at-bats, he will be bye-bye from Double-A and up to Triple-A. There's even a path for him to bypass Triple-A altogether. It doesn't happen all the time, but it could happen in this scenario. And as you see guys like Nick Kurtz start to come up, there might be a little pressure around the American League for other teams to start adjusting their rosters too. So keep a close eye on this. You've seen it happen before. Evan Longoria, probably the most prominent example of a kid who jumped from Double-A right to a starting position in the big leagues. And there's no reason why Jack Caglione probably could not do that. Are there some strikeouts? Sure. Is he as polished as Nick Kurtz is? Not quite. But in terms of raw power, this kid's got it. And in terms of that lineup protection the Royals need, he could provide it sooner than later. So I think at the very least, when you see that at-bat total click over the 50 mark, I don't think it's going to get to 100 at Double-A. What more does this kid have to prove? Right. Let him get his 50 at-bats there, bump him up to Triple-A, let him get 50 to 100 at-bats there, and then make your evaluation. And guess what? That's going to put you somewhere around July. And the Royals are a team that's not looking to trade their prospects. They're a team that's looking to use their prospects. And that pitching staff is pretty good. They've got Lugo, they've got Reagans, they've got Waka, they've got Bubic, who's been really good. You need more offense. Don't trade away the kids. Bring the kids up because they can help.
Yeah, I agree. Orioles, take note, man. Perhaps the Royals will do it right. And if they do bring Jack up, then they become a much different team, at least in my mind. All right, now let's talk about pitching. You've stressed the importance of it. Let's go to the Minnesota Twins. We highlighted Pablo Lopez injury. You mentioned some options, and then you touched on a particular young name that if the Twins wanted to look to the future and bring it now, perhaps it is right here and right now for Zebby Matthews.
Yeah, and it's not going to be right now, unfortunately, because obviously David Festa got that call. And I talked about it on my show earlier this week on Fantasy Pros MLB. We do our daily show, and I said, look, we're going to get disappointed here. I can tell you it's going to be Festa. And sure enough, it was Festa. And that's not disappointing. I like David Festa a lot coming into this year. He should be in this rotation too. So he's the temporary fill-in for Pablo Lopez. But Chris Paddock and Simeon Woods Richardson, I think I've seen enough of those guys in the rotation. I want to see the kids. And Zebby Matthews, one of them. 10 innings, 13 strikeouts, 0 earned runs. The whip is at .60. He has been absolutely lights out. I understand that the Twins want to see a little bit bigger sample size before bringing him up. But if you are in a 15, 14-team league, even a 12-teamer, I would consider stashing this kid at some point because I think he is going to be up. So we're going to try to give you a couple names of pitchers. Festa is the immediate guy who can help you. Probably more likely to stick in that rotation sooner, but Zebby Matthews is also one to at least watch and monitor because at some point I think you see him in 2025 with the Twins.
All right, Joe, let's move on to another young arm. At the start of the season, it seemed that a lot of people were high on the Pittsburgh Pirates, reasons being Paul Skeens, Jared Jones is the 1-2, Slide Keller in there as the 3. Jones goes down and people are off the Pirates. Enter Bubba Chandler? Question mark?
Yeah, sooner than later, too. Bubba Chandler is electric. 6 innings, 12 strikeouts, hasn't given up an earned run so far at AAA. That whip sits at 105 coming into the weekend's action. He's going to be back up there. He is also a little higher rostered than a lot of these other players because people saw that he would be, around that club sooner than later and get his opportunities, and already has. Here's the thing with Bubba Chandler. It's going to be a little bit of a peak and valley situation, so you have to have some patience with him. The electric fastball, he's got everything you're looking for. The Pirates rotation is very exciting. I just wish the Pirates offense was more exciting. Yeah. The problem is he's going to be limited in terms of his wins. He's limited in terms of his innings too. So you might see some artificial whip and ERA numbers there because he's going to probably be a 5-inning pitcher. But if you're in a league where you're looking for strikeouts, Bubba Chandler's your guy. Bright young future in keeper leagues and dynasty leagues, he's a guy that you want to have pieces of. So Bubba Chandler will be up with this rotation, I think, sooner than later because he is absolutely filthy and dominating at AAA right now.
All right, sitting down and talking with Joe Pisapia, the author of the Fantasy Black Book. Go out and get it right now. Joe, as I understand it, you personally write the pitcher reports, so you understand how important the position is. Let's go to Milwaukee here. They do have reinforcements coming once Woodruff is 100%. You add that to a great rotation. But they have a young kid here that people may not be aware of, but you think this is going to be the name. I'm turning you loose, bud. What do you got?
Yeah, a lot of people like Jacob Mizorowski, who is a tall drink of water in that organization, but he's also walking too many guys. That's the problem. I want to turn your attention to Logan Henderson because they've had injuries here in this rotation. They are getting Brandon Woodruff back sooner than later. He's going to make a rehab start, I think, next week again at AAA. That's good news. So he's on his way back. Tobias Myers on his way back. Now, all of a sudden with Peralta, that's a formidable three. But Logan Henderson is a name I want to bring attention to. Why? Because 14 innings, a 3.21 ERA. He's got 24 strikeouts in his first 14 innings, a 1.36 whip. This is a kid you should stash. This is also a 12-team stash right now because you look at this rotation for the Brewers, and they got off to a rocky start. They've settled down a little bit. Freddie Peralta has been fantastic. Freddie Peralta does not get enough credit. But the rest of this rotation, Quinn Priester, a guy with a career ERA over 5, I don't think is a long-term answer. Jose Quintana, older pitcher, Chad Patrick, Tyler Alexander. I'm looking at Logan Henderson. I'm thinking, okay, even with the returning Myers and the returning Woodruff, I still think Logan Henderson's going to make at least 10 to 12 starts for the Brewers this year. So know the name, learn the name, put him on the watch list, and add Nick Kurtz for whatever you got to, because by the time we reach Monday, he might already be up. So those are the prospects to watch in Major League Baseball. When we return, I'll look at the numbers in Major League Baseball.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the tribe, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the mood between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia just having a whale of a time here. It's time to go by the numbers. And again, it's all about the names you need to know. There are things going on with the Angels that I don't think the casual fan is aware of. And let's just start right there. And let's start with a young name that is making history. Joe?
Yeah, he is. And Kyron Paris is definitely a guy that everyone's talking about. And he's an exciting young player, right? He's very athletic. He's a great kid, good on the interviews. He's got power clearly now, which he didn't used to have. He's got speed and he's worked hard. He's made adjustments. He worked with Aaron Judge's swing coach, but that doesn't make him Aaron Judge. So I want to deep dive into some of these numbers and talk about Kyron Paris because I think a lot of people are looking at Kyron Paris and trying to figure out, oh my God, did I just pick up the waiver wire claim of the year, or is this just a little bit of an April illusion? So if you're looking at the numbers, Kyron Paris is the first player in American League history with 5 homers, 4 steals in his first 10 games. Currently, as we're sitting here, he is hitting 400 with a 488 on base percentage, a 914 slugging, and a 1400 OPS. Boys and girls, there's nowhere to go but down here. And I don't know how far down it's going to go, but I want to show you what the bottom looks like because over 300 minor league games for Kyron Paris, and that's a pretty big sample. Here is his minor league slash, a 237 batting average, a 359 OBP, and a 398 slugging. A slugging under 400 is awful, especially in the minor leagues. You should be dominating the minor league levels to dominate the major league levels. A career OPS of 757, that's half of what he's posting right now. So even just the law of baseball averages tells you he's going to come back down to earth. The question is, when he comes back down to earth and settles, what kind of player is he? Is he somewhere in between? And if he is somewhere in between and a kid who is clearly worked on getting stronger, clearly worked on his swing, getting more power out of it, sure, there's a chance that Kyron Paris becomes a nice player to own. Is he this player that's going to light the world on fire and win you your league? That I'm not quite sold on yet. So if you have him and somebody's begging to get him off your roster, sell him. That's what I say. Matt, where are you at with Kyron Paris?
So it's basically about where he hits in the lineup. And depending on which site you go and look at, some sites still have him down hitting 7th with Joe Adell as his protection. But all of a sudden, if Ron Washington moves him somewhere in the stratosphere of Trout and Soler, that's going to really change a lot of things. And it's almost like a free square, as Joe likes to say. So you have to think about that. If it's you have the availability to do it, don't stress yourself. You have the availability to do it, and some fluid lineup changes are made, this could be a beneficial move.
One thing, though, Zach Neto is going to come back, right? And Neto is going to play in the infield. So you're going to have Rengifo there. What's helped now is you have Yoan Moncada going to the IL. Not that he matters all that much, but in terms of availability, it does a little bit because Rengifo then can slide to third. You can keep Kyron Paris at second. You could slide Tim Anderson out and Zach Neto back in. At some point, Kyron Paris could get squeezed a little bit. I don't think he should by the likes of Yoan Moncada or Tim Anderson. I'd much rather, if I'm the Angels, see what I have in Kyron Paris instead. But you never know how organizations operate and how they want to value some of the veteran talent there. So it's definitely a situation worth monitoring. Kyron Paris has been amazing. Is he the waiver wire pickup of April? Yes. But don't forget, there's been plenty of these April guys before. I was talking with Matt and the guys before the show about Tyler White back in 2016. Tyler White of the Houston Astros, first baseman, had 5 homers and 14 RBI in the month of April. People thought, I found my next corner stud. And people right now are going, who the hell is Tyler White, Joe? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly my point. So Kyron Paris, I hope, is not on that path, but he is certainly not on the path to sustaining any of these numbers currently because they are completely unsustainable. Let's get to another number here, Matt. How about this one next here? 10 strikeout games since 2021. This is fascinating. It's a lot of usual suspects on this list. Garrett Cole with 24 double-digit strikeout games. Kevin Gausman, who had one this past week, a terrific outing for him. Great to see him starting to look more like himself. 2024 was a huge disappointment for anybody who had Gausman. It was a roller coaster that made you sick most of the time. Great to see him getting back into form. Blake Snell, that's not surprising. Corbin Burns, Dylan Cease. But Shohei Ohtani has 20 of them. He is on this list with 20, and Shohei Ohtani didn't pitch all of last year. Matt, how incredible is it when you look at this list and see Ohtani with 20 double-digit strikeout games since 2021?
Well, some could say it's a trend, but I think his stuff just speaks. I mean, was it a 5-6 pitch mix? And actually, I think he just completed his 3rd bullpen session. I read somewhere that Dave Roberts said that Ohtani's exactly where they want him. So that says a lot as well. It's fun to watch Ohtani pitch. It's fun to watch Ohtani hit. It's fun to watch Ohtani play baseball.
All right, it's also fun to watch Kyle Tucker play baseball. He's been excellent. 5+ homers and 15 RBI in his first 15 games with the Cubs. That is the first player to do that since 1920. The other one, Jorge Soler, who had an incredible start to his Cubs career as well. But Kyle Tucker has been as advertised. With the Vlad Guerrero Jr. signing, though, Matt, I have to imagine that there's no way the Cubs can stop this guy from going to free agency, right? He has got to test the waters because now there's one less big fish out there to get caught. And I think all the money is out there for Kyle Tucker to use against the Yankees and the Cubs and whoever else wants to dance.
Well, you speculate on the player's mentality, right? From the neck up. For all we know, Kyle Tucker is very happy to start a family and settle down in a wonderful city like Chicago. But from the overall mindset of a business perspective, of course, it's the smart thing to do. But Kyle Tucker needs to do what's best for Kyle Tucker.
That's right. Kyle Tucker's going to do what's best for Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker knows what Kyle Tucker needs. You know who needs to get out of Chicago? Luis Robert. And a lot of people are losing patience early. He had a home run this weekend. But I got more questions about Luis Robert than any player by far this week. People are losing their mind. They're freaking out. Just relax, everybody. Here's an ugly stat, though. Pete Crow Armstrong and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa have better slugging percentages going into the weekend than Luis Robert. Yes, that is very depressing. I understand that. But to me, Luis Robert is a complete buy right now. Matt, I'm looking to purchase him on the cheap. People are already down on him after a down year last year. I'm buying low on Luis Robert. Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. If the right deal came to my lap, and I'll return serve because I love when we play this game before the break. Give me a deal, a fictional deal that you would say, yep, okay, I'll do that immediately. You're the Luis. Go.
Fictional deal. How about I'll give you a pitcher and a hitter. How about Chris Bubic? And how about, let me give you an outfielder that might be playing over his head a little bit right now. I don't know. How about, is Helio Ramos and Chris Bubic too much for Luis Robert?
It might just be. We'll find out when we come back.
I don't know. Maybe. Maybe.
The pitching staff chose favorite.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts into a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
Would bring a lot of money to the tribe, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the mood between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, giving you everything you need. It's time to take an FST deep dive into the pitching staff of the New York Mets. But before we get to that, Joe, you have a personnel update. A pitcher is scratched.
Yeah, a healthy scratch too, which is even more absurd. Shane Boz is fine, apparently, but Joe Boyle is going to make his start today for the Rays against the Braves. That he's being brought up. I don't know if this is a reshuffling the rotation somehow or what they're getting at. We're waiting for more news on it. So if you have Shane Boz in your lineups, get him out because he's not pitching today. I don't know if I want to put Joe Boyle in, especially against the Braves. That's not what I want to do, but we'll see what this means. Maybe Zach Littell's getting bounced from this rotation. Maybe they we're watching some of the notes that we're going to do in this upcoming hour because he's one of the guys we're going to trash. So maybe they just didn't want that to happen and say, okay, we did get him out of the rotation, Joe and Matt. We understand. But Shane Boz, last 10 starts, let me throw this going back to last season. 7 innings, 2 earned 6 Ks, 6 innings, no earned 10 Ks, 6 innings, 2 earned 7 Ks, 6 innings, 1 run, 6 Ks. I can go on, but I think you get the picture here. Shane Boz has been pretty damn good for the Rays. So a weird one. We don't know why, but again, they say he's fine. So I guess we can take solace in that, Matt.
All right. So thank you, Joe, for that update. So now let's do a deep dive into the team with the best ERA in baseball. And as a St. Louis Cardinals fan, maybe 25 years ago, it would pain me to say, but I'm a bit more mature these days. I know Joe's going to needle me because he is, of course, a New York Met fan. Joe, let's talk about this staff.
Well, look, I don't get a lot of these moments. So when I get the moment to be on top, I have to take advantage of them. I mean, what am I doing here? So the Mets still today, going into Friday they were, but still today have the best ERA as a team in baseball. So the much maligned, what are they doing? What are the Mets doing? What does this rotation look like? Who are these jabronis that they're picking up off the scrap heap? Kodai Senga, all this stuff. And they don't have Sean Manaea in this rotation yet. Let me just tell you that. Joe Manaea, one of the best pitchers in baseball last year, he hasn't thrown a pitch for this team yet.
Hubris in your voice.
The hubris is coming through. St. Louis Cardinals, by the way, are 28th in team ERA at 4.79. The only teams worse than them, the Colorado Rockies and the Brewers. So Logan Henderson, let's get Logan Henderson up here sooner than later. So let's look at this Mets rotation. So Clay Holmes coming off a big strikeout game now. Again, 2 starts against the Marlins, but I think it's very smart that they've limited him to 5 innings. And I could see them doing that for the first 6+ starts of this year. If you're the Mets, you made an investment in Clay Holmes because you want him to be available come October. And the only way to do that is to make sure that you do baby his innings a little bit. And you're going to see that in April. So if someone's frustrated by the 5 innings of Clay Holmes, just understand that's probably going to look a little different when you get into the second half of the year. So he's an interesting purchase right now. He's a buy. Tyler McGill, his ERA is at 0.63. So a guy that's got some strikeout potential here. Another guy that I wrote up in the Black Book I thought could be really good was David Peterson, and he's been excellent. So this lefty has gotten moments, but never been left alone in the rotation. I wrote in the Black Book this year, if they just leave David Peterson alone and let him make 30 starts, I think David Peterson's basically going to show up to be a 3 or 4 fantasy starter this year. And so far, he's been even better than that, a 2.53 ERA for him. Kodai Senga is getting that ghost forkball working. He's got a 1.80 ERA currently. And Griffin Canning, an interesting arm who showed you glimpses with the Angels, a 2.79 ERA. Now, somebody's going to lose a job when Manaea comes back. My guess is it's McGill. I don't think Peterson goes away because he's a lefty. I think you keep him in that rotation. But what the Mets have done here is something really interesting, which is they are taking the innings you need over a full major league season. And they are throwing not 5, not 6, not 7, but more like 9 or 10 starting pitchers at it. Because they've got a couple kids in the minor leagues that are going to be able to make some starts at some point. This might be what Major League Baseball kind of looks like for other organizations in the future. And remember, they've still got Frankie Montas on his way at some point too, dealing with that lat issue. They made an investment in him. They're going to see him at some point in this rotation. You need more than 5 starters to get through a major league season. And I think the Mets are understanding not only do you not want to pay for that, but you want to spread that out over some quality arms and guys that have some upside and teach them to do what they do best more often. And that's what the Mets are doing. It's what the Padres are doing with Nick Pivetta. It's what they did with Dylan Cease. It's what they did with Michael King. We can go on and on. Certain organizations right now are the green flags for pitchers. The Mets have become one. And I just want to put that out there. Much to, Matt making jokes about the New York Mets. And I got to say, even part of me was a little worried seeing some of those names. Maybe the Mets actually know what they're doing here when it comes to the pitching staff. Can it sustain? I don't know. Am I terrified about Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning? Oh, hell yeah, I am. But regardless, the Mets so far are getting it done. Let's see how they perform against some of the better teams because they have played a lot of games against the Marlins. We come back 3 up and 3 down on FST. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.